Welcome to another edition of Fourth and One. I am Todd Palmer, joined today by Nick Jacobs, and we are talking about the Chiefs. Are we going to call it fading fortunes, Nick? I mean, they go up to Seattle, they lose 38-31. I feel like we've seen this movie before, right? I mean, we've seen them go on the road against decent teams, and offense plays okay, defense plays terrible. They aren't able to find a way to pull it out. But here we are. Here we are again. I mean, just like after the Chargers game, because of the Chargers loss and because of the Texans loss and because of the way some other things shook out this weekend, the Chiefs still somehow control their own fate, even though they stubbed their toe pretty hard up in the Pacific Northwest.
It is. I'm not having a happy holiday right now. I just want you to know that. I am angry. I'm like a tornado of anger swirling about.
Yeah. You're in a glass case of emotion.
Yeah.
I blame Russell Wilson. And you know what? I
blame Bob Sutton all the time.
Well, I mean, he was the one who was supposed to be defending, figuring out how to stop Russell Wilson on Sunday, and it didn't happen, did it?
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, we talked about going into the game, a few keys to victory. And obviously Seattle has one of the best run games, the best rushing attack in the NFL this year. So you knew that they were going to have some success against what is a soft Chiefs interior defensive line, middle linebacker. I mean, they're not exactly stout up the middle. They've been susceptible to giving up some plays there. So a couple of things we talked about was, one, don't let Russell Wilson beat you with his legs. And two, get off to a good start, put the pressure on them, make them chase the game past the ball a little bit more so that your strength, your pass rush, can come into play. And the Chiefs just weren't able to execute either one of those.
Yeah, and the first thing for me was that Patrick Mahomes came out again and looked antsy. He looked amped up.
Is it antsy or is it just too like adrenaline fueled hulkish and he's just trying to do too much on every play to start these games?
Correct. He's too amped up, and Peyton Manning said it best on Detail on ESPN Plus, which is a great series that I enjoy watching. He said you can never go broke if you're making a profit. And essentially what he meant by that, and it was Pat Mahomes did it early on to DeMarcus Robinson. 3rd and 2, run it or just take that check down. Run it or take the check down.
Just take the first down, yeah.
So that you can move the chains, start creating some positive vibes, some momentum, keep your defense off the field. Instead, he wanted to chuck it downfield to DeMarcus Robinson. And you and I both know DeMarcus Robinson not exactly top 10 in ball tracking skills.
No. Or
running routes or pretty much anything a receiver's supposed to do. But he's a great gunner.
Well, the other thing, I mean, Mahomes was overshot a couple. He was high on a couple throws.
Like Kelsey's wide open.
Well, I'm thinking more into the flats, but the big one was blown coverage by Seattle. Kelsey's running alone, and Patrick Mahomes threw it 10 yards over his head.
Right.
Not the kind of thing you normally see from Patrick Mahomes, and it was an odd flick of the wrist. I mean, he just looked all out of sync today.
Well, and what he said in the press conference was that supposedly he was looking for Tyreek. Tyreek got bumped off his route, and then he just adjusted real quick and went to Kelsey before he thought the rush was going to get to him. So, but still, I mean, that didn't happen to him in the 3rd and 4th quarter once he settled down. It just, for me, I feel like this team, ever since the Kareem Hunt unfortunate circumstances happened, this team has been, and Sammy Watkins being hurt, this offense has been trying to find a new identity, and they still haven't found it. Almost a month later.
Well, yeah, defense it's a lot easier to double and take away Tyreek Hill, who's a little bit banged up at this point in the year, and Travis Kelce when you don't have Sammy Watkins and Kareem Hunt,
correct,
who can hurt you. I mean, Damian Williams had another nice game, and that well,
minus the fumble, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say that's about the extent of of the highlights for that offense. I mean, Chris Conley had 3 catches, 54 yards, but
and a fumble.
He also had the fumble. I mean, I guess maybe we could say Charkandrick West I mean, he had 2 big catches, including a touchdown in limited duty when Darrell Williams went down with a hamstring injury. That was a positive, but not exactly the kind of thing that's going to carry an offense, or it's not the kind of thing that anybody's going to game plan for. Oh, we got to take Charkandrick West out of this one.
See, and that's the thing is like Charkandrick's a good pass catching option out of the backfield that they underutilize on a weekly basis, and he already knows the offense. So you can't sit there and tell me, well, he's got to learn the system. No, he knows it. You put Kelvin Benjamin out there, and he dropped the touchdown. People like literally the announcing team's like, no, that got deflected, and then they showed the replay, and they're like, oh no. Yeah. He just couldn't catch the ball.
Got deflected by his shoulder pad.
and here's the frustration.
After it went through his hands.
And here's the frustration with that for me, and this is something I'm going to pick on the wide receiving corps right now because I'm going down a rabbit hole. You got to attack that football. You got to put your hands out there. You don't let it get in your body. You attack that and aggressively take that football. That's your football. That belongs to you. That's not the defensive backing, especially when you're his size, going inside defender. You should be able to box him out and go attack that football. So that tells me all I need to know about him. Now, Conley, holding the football like a loaf of bread was embarrassing. You've been in the league 4 years now. There's no excuse for that to happen.
No. And cost them a potential field goal late in the first half.
It took points off the board like it has in every big game that they've had at this point that they've lost by a couple. And they're like, hey, a couple plays, a couple here. It's just like the Chiefs-Colts wildcard game back in 2013. There's like 12 plays they leave on the field that they make mistakes. And they've done it again this year in 6 different big games that teams that were potentially going to be in the playoffs or are in the playoffs.
So to recap, they gave up 210 yards rushing, almost 5 yards a carry. Which, I went into the game thinking if you can hold them to, 170, or if you can get up a big enough lead that they're forced to pass, and hold them to even less than that, you're probably in good shape. But you certainly couldn't give up 200. And then Russell Wilson, 8 carries, 57 yards, a couple big ones. And what I think was really frustrating to me was early in the game, you could see that they wanted to sit back, play zone, kind of feel things out. Fine, that's fine. But when it became clear that rushing 4 wasn't working, that Russell Wilson was exploiting that, they decided to rush 5. And it was effective. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson's running for his life. They're collapsing the pocket on him. He's not as effective when when Justin Houston's breathing down his neck, hitting his arm as he's trying to hit wide open players. And all of a sudden, the Chiefs are having success. And then, for no discernible reason, they went back to rushing 4, or they went to rushing 4 and then dropping Justin Houston into a spiral, and they stopped doing what had been successful. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, Seattle suddenly started having success again. It was maddening. I don't know if it was maddening to you, but it was maddening to me.
Yeah, of course it's maddening, but I expect that from Bob Sutton, and I mean that's just who that guy is. I mean, I've harped on about 2015, what infuriated me about then, and it's the same pattern I've seen since when they played the Patriots in that game. Their offensive line was terrible. Their interior line was terrible. You just had to attack it with your pass rush, bring blitzes. Brady was going to toss it up, and you have a fighting chance, especially with the amount of stars you had on your defense at that point, to where you had 6-7 Pro Bowlers on that roster at that point. So you could have made it work. And instead, the Broncos ended up doing it the next week. The thing about Sutton is he basically took part of his game plan from 2014 when they used 5 down linemen and attacked with 5 rushers. So he took what worked 4 years ago, used it again for a while. It worked, and like you said, then he packed up the circus tent, and we're going back to what we were doing when I had 10 days to game plan. Yeah, and I mean that's just who Bob is.
I look, and I'm all for it. Look, I understand you can't play the same defense every time. You can't be predictable. You've got to be multiple. You've got to adjust to what the offense is doing. That's fine, but at the end of the day, when you need to make a play, when you need to get a stop, and one and only one thing you've done the entire game has been effective, I don't understand why you don't do what has worked for you. Play to the strength of your team, which is to let Justin Houston, Chris Jones, Dee Ford, and Alan Bailey, and whoever else you want to put in there, Noddy or Xavier Williams, but let them pin their freaking ears back and go get the quarterback. That's the one thing that this defense can do at times with any measure of success. And that's the one thing that they refuse to do in key situations. And even more maddening than that, and we talked about this in the Chargers game too, Eric Berry, they decided to use him in the first half against the Chargers of the second half, and it bit him, right? So you thought, all right, well, they're certainly not going to make the same mistake. When it's winning time, when it's late in the game, when you've got to find a way to get off the field, you're going to make sure you've got Eric Berry out there this time, right? Like, you're not going to have Eric Berry on the sideline when after you score a touchdown to get within 31-28 and just watch Seattle go right down the field on you and make it a 10-point game again, right? Certainly, you're not going to make that mistake 2 weeks in a row, are you? But then, I mean, after they get within 3, get the 2-point conversion, Barry's nowhere to be seen. The defense looks like it's a sieve, and Seattle's water pouring right through it as they march to the end zone and salt the game away.
Yeah. I wish I had something positive to tell you, but, I mean, here's the sad thing, and this is kind of like we've talked about on here before, is like for Andy Reid's tenure here, the defense had to carry the pressure. The defense had to keep them in games. The defense had to do it when they had the stars and they had the Pro Bowlers. Now the pendulum swung to where the offense has to keep this football team in games, that this offense has to do it. And people aren't even asking for a defense that the people aren't asking for a top 5, top 10 defense. They just need middle of the road. Can you get 3 or 4 stops in a game, or can you do enough until the offense gets on track? And they're not even capable of that.
No.
And I honestly, I truly believe this, and I actually looked it up. They're on pace, and they may actually be pretty close to it now. They're on pace to statistically be worse than Greg Robinson's defense in 2003. In explosive plays, lack of turnovers. They're going to be better in sacks. But like you said, and you bring up a phenomenal point, even in the run game, take those 4 guys and get upfield. Get every single one on the field. Stop this 2-gap stuff. Stop guessing. Let them attack. Let your defense attack, because you have an offense that can help keep you in the game.
Yeah.
And you've got to set your own tempo. And they don't do that. And Bob doesn't do that. And that's why fans are getting frustrated, because it's literally like you're like, well, hey, we got this pantry full of this stuff. We're not going to use any of it.
You know, it's like you went to the pantry. You saw pumpkin pie, or like some pumpkin filling, and some sugar, some brown sugar, a pie crust, and you were like, you know what? I'm going to make cornbread pudding. And it's like, why? That's not what you have in your pantry, man. Use the ingredients you have effective. Like, that's the one. I mean, that's what coaching comes down to in the end, right? Is you find a way to put the pieces you have in the best possible position to win and to do so, and to be effective. And I think that's why it's so frustrating that there's a failure here.
Yeah, especially since this team has capable. They have a capable offense of going to Super Bowl, and I think everybody sees how close this football team can be, and I think they're starting to accept that their fears of Chiefs playoff past is inching closer and closer.
Boy, it's sure feeling exactly like every other season that the Chiefs were good under Andy Reid. Since he arrived.
Well, not just Andy, but I mean, like.
Well, before that too. But this really feels like the team that went and blew a 4-touchdown lead in Indianapolis for the team that lost the Steelers in the divisional game at home 2 years ago, or the team that blew the big, the 18-point halftime lead against the Titans. It's really feeling like that. If you're a Chiefs fan, I don't blame you if you feel that way. Let's hear from Andy Reid, Chris Conley, and Patrick Mahomes, and go inside the locker room, give you a taste of what they're feeling after falling to 11-4.
We play the way we can play, and we're going to play. We're tough. We're a tough team right there, and as good as anybody in the National Football League. So let's take care of that, and then let's see how that works out. And I think we'd be fine if we just take care of our business there.
We got to elevate our play. I personally got to elevate my play. I think we can all look at ourselves and find areas that we can improve, offense, defense, and special teams. Come out and really attack this game and not wait a quarter or two to really get it rolling. And so I think that's one of the things that we need to go and look at and we need to fix.
I think the message in the locker room is everybody's got to step up. Everybody, special teams, offense, defense, has to step up if we want to win. You can't be satisfied with what's gotten us here. I mean, this is when it counts. And so that's the message, that everybody's got to do something. Can't take anything for granted. I mean, we're not satisfied with just being here. We want to make sure that we find a way to win these games as this end of the season and the playoffs go.
Well, it's good to hear Patrick Mahomes there following Andy Reid and Chris Conley talking about I don't think this locker room feels defeated, and they shouldn't. They're 11-4. They still control their own fate. Beat the Raiders at home on Sunday at Arrowhead Stadium, a team that will be at best 4-11 when they come to town, but is objectively not a good football team. Beat them, and you get to stay at home for however long you can stay in the playoffs. So kudos to the Chiefs for being in that position and for doing the work to put themselves in that position. But Nick, I know you're pretty concerned because against teams that would currently be in the playoffs going into Week 17, the Chiefs are 2-4. They're 9-0 against people who aren't going to be in the tournament.
Wow.
They're 2-4. And including 1-1 against the Chargers. Right. So they've lost to 4 of the 5 teams that are likely to be in the playoffs that they've played on their schedule this year.
Yeah, I mean, because they've lost to the Patriots,
lost to the Patriots,
to the Rams.
Yep, lost to the Rams,
and they lost to the Chargers last week.
Lost at Seattle.
And they lost at Seattle.
Yep.
The ones that they've won is going to potentially be either the Ravens or Steelers, and then the other Chargers game.
Yeah.
So those are the teams that 100% are going to be in the playoffs. So, I mean, I guess my thought process is Steelers was early on, so
So was the win against the Chargers.
Yeah, and the Chargers, whenever people didn't know what your offense was or wasn't going to be. Since then, I mean, the Chargers knew what your offense was going to be, and your defense didn't hold up there into the bargain. And the thing I keep hearing from him in his losses is, well, hey, we were within a score. Hey, we were within this. Hey, we were within that. Yeah, but you keep making the same reckless turnovers. You keep having fumble, ball security, regardless of who it is. You keep having the same penalties.
8 for 76 yards today.
And then you have the same focus issues over and over again to where these things keep happening in these big games. And those things, they don't look like they're getting fixed. And they don't look like and the thing is, those things need to look like they're improving or that they will improve for you to be successful in the playoffs.
Well, and perfect to your point, Seattle was coming off a game in which penalties absolutely killed them at San Francisco. They were awful, and they had some just back-breaking penalties. So when the rubber met the road against a better team in the Chiefs, they had 3 penalties for 20 yards.
And they rose to the occasion.
They didn't shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. So, I mean, this Chiefs team hasn't proven to me, unfortunately, that they've been able to answer since Kareem's departure and that they're fixing the things against the elite teams that is going to cost them games in the playoffs and bounce them.
I really didn't want to believe when the Kareem Hunt situation went down the way that it did that this was going to be the turning point where the wheels just absolutely came off. And I don't think the wheels have completely come off.
No.
But there's at the very least like a wheel bearing's loose and your brakes need to be looked at, and
you definitely need an inspection.
Yeah,
on the
you need to get it into a mechanic. And before that, it was a Ferrari that was just purring, and right now it's not. I will point out though, Chiefs 2-4. Chiefs 2-4 against teams that would be in the playoffs, but 3 of those losses did come on the road. And they were all 1-score games, as you mentioned. Look, I don't want to say the sky's falling, but this isn't. You can't look at this and say this is a dominant team. So, all right, we're going to be back here. Take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about some more curious decisions related to the defense here on 4th and 1. Welcome back here on 4th and 1, and Nick, This has been a sticking point for me all season.
Butterscotch. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it relates. It's butterscotch adjacent at the very least. Because you've had a bad secondary. I mean, I don't think anybody can look at.
I don't know. Steven Nelson celebrates like he's a Pro Bowler.
Look, man. I mean,
that guy didn't even know where the ball is half the time.
No, and that's the thing. Like the touchdown Doug Baldwin had diving. You know, people are like, well, I mean, Steven Nelson had great coverage on him. He was close to him, but he never located the football so he could make a play on it.
I still don't think he knows that the football was thrown.
It was, no.
And it's a day later.
It's disappointing. I really thought that if he could stay healthy, he was going to have a very good season, and he's had a very Terrence Mitchell-esque season, which is to say not very good. You know, and look, Kendall Fuller obviously didn't play in this game. Ron Parker didn't play in this game. Fuller, of course, had the surgery on.
Yeah, and that one I totally get.
Yeah.
That one, yeah. I totally get him not being out for that one.
And then Ron Parker didn't play. Jordan Lucas, who didn't get to play on defense much either, but obviously had Barry out there. But Lucas did have a pretty key penalty on when he hurt Sebastian Janikowski on a field goal try. But Andy Reid made what I can only describe as a curious decision, and he decided today's the day we're going to live or die with our with Charvarius Ward and Tremon Smith. This is the day we're going to let the young guys go at it. Let's just hear from what Andy Reid had to say about that decision.
Listen, the Seahawks played better football than we did today. My hat goes off to Pete and the job that he did with his guys. They played well. There were some good things. There were some things we can learn from. I played some young guys tonight that I wanted to just get a look at, that I thought could help us a bit. They had some learning experiences, but they battled through. There were some good things in the mix of it, but if you ask me about Parker's done a great job for us. The two guys that were originally the starters had an opportunity to start today, and so that's the route I went with it. So I sat Park down. Again, one of my all-time favorite guys. That was a decision that I made there. Again, with the guys that we had healthy there and special teams and all the things that go into it, I thought that was the best setup for us.
What I don't understand, and that was Andy Reid explaining why Ron Parker was inactive for the Seahawks game and why he went with Tremon Smith and Charvarius Ward. What I don't understand, Orlando Scandrick hasn't been good most of the season. You were 6-1. You've been tracking good all through October and November. Those guys have been active for their role on special teams. If you wanted to get these young guys reps, if you wanted to get their feet wet, if you wanted to, build some confidence, see what you had in them, give them a chance to develop, why aren't you giving them a few snaps, a few series here or there in October, in November? Why are you waiting until at Seattle when you have a chance to clinch everything that you could possibly want and rest your guys an extra week? Why is this the week that you decide? Am I wrong here, or was that just a borderline insane decision?
Here's the problem that I have with it. You've been working all year to get to this moment to put yourself in a position to where you can get the 1 seed. You can win the AFC West. The road runs through Arrowhead to try to get to the Super Bowl and put yourself in the best position to get to a Super Bowl. The problem I have is that the message you send to the rest of the players in that locker room is that, hey, you know what? We're going to try some things this week. This game, we don't have the pressure on us anymore. We're going to execute. We're going to do what we can with the game plan, and whatever chips fall they may. Because we got next week. We got that free coupon to do whatever we want the following week, and we can still do everything we want to. So we're going to use this as a trial period. And here's the problem with that. This is the time where your team needs to have the ruthless mentality that you want to destroy your opponent and that you want to put up 50 on them, and you want them to have no points on the board, and you want every team to look at your coach's film and fear what's coming. And that is the message you want to send. That's the message you want your roster to send. And the exact opposite message you gave was that you were going to do a trial version and just, hey, we're going to see how things go tonight. We don't really need it, and that's fine. So if you want to send that message, that's fine. But here's a message you need to send. How about your team has some focus? How about they stop having some penalties? How about they have some correct assignments and that they know their role? And how about you have some people on your coaching staff that, for a change, start attacking on defense and get aggressive?
Or maybe teach him to tackle too.
So that's just part of my Christmas wish list.
Maybe teach him to tackle. I mean, look, Orlando Skandrick was active, didn't even play. You know, Kendall Fuller obviously inactive. So look, you were down because of inactives and because of, you know, coach's decision. 3 veteran guys in that secondary. And I certainly, this is not meant to say that they lost the game because of Ward and Trayvon Smith. I don't think either one of those guys played particularly well, but I think they would have been better prepared to play in a game in Seattle if they'd been, if they had been kind of warmed up to it like you were boiling frog legs in October and November, rather than just saying, we're going to baptize them by fire, you know, in this environment on a Sunday night, you know. And I guess maybe like you said, it would be a different feeling if everything hadn't broken exactly the way you needed it to break this week. The Texans lose, the Chargers lose. You can finish this thing. I mean, you know, you know, and instead of using your killer finishing move in Mortal Kombat and finishing him.
Finish him.
Yeah, no, and instead you were just like, no thanks. You know, we're good. I want to, you know, go into the Raiders game with everything still up in the air. It's so crazy to me because, and we'll get to this later on too, but only one, like all 4 NFC divisions, we know who the winner is, okay? Yeah. Like those are settled. Only one division has been settled in the AFC, and the Chiefs have had 2 cracks at this nut, and they it's all. It makes me wonder if somebody was like, I don't think you guys can go to Week 17 and make it matter, and see if Patrick Mahomes can get to that 50 touchdowns, and they were like, challenge accepted.
I mean, that's definitely one way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing I heard a lot in the locker room and the sound bites is they kept saying this key word that I remember asking Andy Reid about after the 2013 season, and then I know I've asked multiple other times over the years, and he said it then, you got to learn how to finish. He said that after the 2013 year whenever they didn't, and I still hear guys in the locker room saying that 6 years later. At what point do you actually have it down?
Yeah, well, clearly not yet. Clearly not yet. So, all right, hey, let's come back. We got a couple more things we got to discuss here in the C block, but let's take another quick break and come back and talk a little bit about MVP. Anybody? Welcome back to 4th and 1. And hey, man, this is all the rage. NFL.com writer Albert Breer, I think, kind of touched a nerve when he came out.
He's actually with CNNSI now.
Is he? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, Monday morning quarterback.
There we go.
You're welcome, Albert.
But he touched a nerve when he said he's still voting Breeze, Drew Brees for MVP.
And I think a lot of people will.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I think if you look at one of his reasoning for doing it was that Brees he played so great against the Rams, the Steelers, and the Eagles, and he played so great, and I'm just like, I mean. So Patrick Mahomes threw 6 touchdowns with no interceptions in Pittsburgh. Patrick Mahomes, he threw 6 touchdowns against the Rams, right? I mean, he was pretty darn good against the Ravens, 377 yards against a defense that gives up 194 passing yards per game. If that's your measuring stick and you're going to penalize Patrick Mahomes because he plays on a team whose defense is historically awful, I don't understand, because to me it seems like you're proving the point that Patrick Mahomes is far more valuable to his team and far more important to his team than Drew Brees is. I guess if you took Drew Brees off the Saints, are they still a playoff team? If you give them an average NFL quarterback?
I think Peyton could make it work.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like to run a little bit more.
Okay, let's say this: you give them Alex Smith, can they still win the NFC South?
Yeah.
Can this Chiefs team, as constructed with Alex Smith, be 11-4?
Oh no, they wouldn't. No.
So then, who's more valuable? I think I don't know. And look, I'm not even biased. The man has 48 touchdowns. That's the 3rd most in NFL history for a guy playing his first season. He's going to get to 5,000 yards next week and set the Chiefs single-season record past Trent Green in the loss at Seattle for the single-season record. He's got more road passing touchdowns. Here's the list of men who've passed for more than his 31 road touchdowns this year. You ready? That was it. Absolutely no one has ever thrown more road touchdowns in road games in a single season than Patrick Mahomes. He's putting a team that would be 8-8 at best with an average quarterback on his back and carrying them possibly to the 1 seed. I mean, who would you vote for?
Personally, I would vote for Mahomes because I've watched him each and every week, but I've also watched Breeze every week, and I've watched pretty much every other quarterback because I have an obsession when it comes to football, Todd. But
the first step is admitting it.
I did right there, nailed it. Yeah, but I mean, for me, the MVP candidates are Mahomes 1, Breeze I could see 2. I feel like Aaron Donald's a 3, and I feel like Khalil Mack's a 4. I feel those are your 4 most valuable players.
Where is Dustin Colquitt on that list?
He is a distant 2000
because he did move into third place all alone with 440 career punts inside the 20. He has now broken a tie with Brad Maynard. So I just want to put that out there because he's close to the top 10 for me right now.
Congrats on that. I hope you guys have a great Christmas together. Colquitt's and the Palmers just breaking bread,
making gingerbread houses.
I can tell you've dreamed about that.
We have matching PJs.
Starting to sound like a Step Brothers movie at this point.
You know what? I mean, those guys. We have raced NASCARs together before. NASCAR.
Yeah. But anyways, I honestly felt like Pat really needed to have a standout game on national TV against the Seahawks for him to change some of the minds of the 50 voters. Unfortunately, Todd and I are not voters, but if he wants to call us, hi. But I personally, I thought
you don't think he did enough?
I don't think the voters in their mind are going to take what he did tonight, despite the numbers. I don't think they're going to take it as a signature win or he carried the team. And unfortunately, I think it's going to hurt him. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's MVP because that would be fantastic and he deserves it. I think they weigh too much about what people do in national games that they're able to watch when the spotlight's on versus what a player does consistently every week.
Yeah.
So I fully expect Breeze to end up getting it. I don't think he deserves it, but I think he's going to end up getting it.
Well, and look, Drew Brees is fantastic, and I would love for Drew Brees to have an NFL MVP on his resume. I think he's played well enough in his career to deserve that honor at some point. But year to year, things happen. I mean, he did
have this. Yeah, he basically had Brady and Manning and Aaron Rodgers in front of him.
And that's
most of the time.
It's unfortunate, and but I mean, I don't think you punish Patrick Mahomes for he's going to have 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns this season.
Hopefully, yes.
Unless he almost certainly, I would think. I mean, he's 2 touchdowns and less than 200 yards away from those 2 marks, and at home against the Raiders, I think he's going to get those marks. For a team that's going to be 12-4 and the number 1 seed in the AFC,
hopefully,
I don't think that. Look, we can talk about this later in the week, but my God, man, if they lose to the Raiders, I mean, man.
Almost did out there in Oakland. So,
I just think it'll be different.
I sure hope so.
But I mean, I just don't know how you. I don't know. I just don't know how you just say, well, we're going to give Breeze a Lifetime Achievement Award and just ignore what Mahomes has done this year. So real quick, let's hear, talking about the Raiders, it's a good time to hear from Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking forward to that game.
We all just got to get better. We all phases of the game. We got to get better. We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to get better. We still control our own destiny. We're going to finish this last game strong.
I mean, we've been in every game that we've lost, but we have to find ways to win. And as we go into this next week against the Raiders, I mean, they're going to be ready to play us, and we got to find a way to win. And then you get to the playoffs, and you have to find a way to win these games, and we haven't been lately. And so that's the most frustrating thing. But everybody's got to step up. We got to find a way to go out there and win big football games.
Yeah, that was Chris Jones, who, by the way, got extended his record, a sack in 11 straight games. So.
Yeah, and somebody asked about it in the locker room, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care."
Yeah, well, yeah. Why would he? I mean, they've lost the last 2 games, and they had a chance to.
I apprecited that mentality from him, that he wasn't being playful in that regard.
No, and you know what? I mean,
that showed he cared, and I appreciate that.
And that's why when they have a new defensive coordinator and they go to a 4-3 that matches their personnel better, and they pay Chris Jones in the offseason, I think that we'll appreciate that even more. Even you will begin to appreciate it.
I think that's a massive wish list that I don't know if it's going to come true.
I'm trying to make your Christmas seem a little bit better, man.
I don't. only a Chiefs win would have done that on Sunday Night Football.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm not a Chiefs win. All right, real quick, let's wrap up on this, man.
Yeah.
We kind of know what the AFC playoff picture is going to be. I mean, New England's obviously in. The Chargers are in. The Texans probably
should be.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll be in. No, they'll be in. I think they have already clinched a playoff spot because they've got 10 wins. And then you got the Colts Titans winner is going to be in. And then you've got either the Ravens or the Steelers, depending on how their games start out. So, any of those teams, who scares you the most in the playoffs?
Every single one of them. I think they can. Here's the sad part: they can beat every single one of those teams. Some of them may be closer than others, but the Chiefs have the ability and the personnel to make it happen. It's just a matter of, does that offense find its identity and get off to a fast start, or does it evolve in the way that it needs to, and is Sammy Watkins healthy? And then can the defense make enough stops at home to where it isn't ball control football?
Oh, so you're assuming they're going to be at home now, too?
If they do what they're supposed to and win, yeah. If they go on the road.
Okay, well, which team would you least want to see in Arrowhead in an AFC Championship game?
Baltimore Ravens would be. I don't know if Sutton stops that run game, and that defense would not be fun. But I think the Chargers would give the Chiefs a game as well.
See, to me, the Chargers are a matchup. There's no mystery to that team. I mean, the Chiefs have the pass rushers to do what Baltimore did, which is just beat them into submission. Just beat, because Phillip Rivers is not going to move around and beat you.
But for me, it's a matter of Bob Sutton actually doing it.
I understand, but that's the one where I feel like, that one's just so easy to figure out.
I just want to see this defense be ruthless. I know you're not great, and that's fine, but be ruthless, man. Go attack. Go lay some wood. Go do what you got to do. But, lay some big hits. I don't care. If you get a penalty, you get a penalty. But, man, show your presence.
Play like you did against the Jaguars?
Yes. I wish
yeah.
I know I was frustrated at the time when they were mouthy we're mouthy in that game. But, man, I need to see that edge again.
Yeah.
That's just show me that edge. That can get you to at least 20 in the rankings, hopefully.
You can't go. I mean, it can't make you worse, I wouldn't think.
I don't know, dude. Bob will find a way.
Well, all right. This is going to sound cliche, but I still don't want anything to do with the Patriots. I think the way they're running the football, and I think giving Belichick a chance to go at effectively a rookie quarterback in the playoffs, nah. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't think that's a recipe for success for this team.
I told you, Todd, that all scare me.
Nick, are you going to be okay?
I need some quality food.
Okay.
I do that, I'll be happy again. Right. Until I watch a coach's film, then I won't be.
Well, why don't you go do that, and we'll pass this off to Megan, and we will let the people off the hook here. That's it for this edition of 4th and 1. We will be back to preview the Raiders game later in the week. Hopefully Nick will have his voice and will not be coughing. And hey, why don't you eat before the next episode? Okay.
I did a couple hours ago.
All right. Biddy. That's all, folks.